Hey there guys, we're taking a look at Rigel right now. He's playing Pocket for the Subspace and Emissaries. He notes that the mids are pretty bad and this is a 5-0, so I guess they get rolled straight to last. And he's looking for some team feedback as well. So I don't think this matters and it might be faster, I'm not really sure, but it is kind of strange to go left. It might actually be faster though, so. And here, you want to take this a little bit more carefully. You don't want to get hit by this sticky, so play a little bit further back so you get 300. It's lucky that it hit the fence, otherwise you'd taken a little bit of damage. So you could dodge that first one by a little bit of clever movement. So as a team it looks like you guys took left and they ended up mirroring you. And I think you should have kind of stayed on the ground for a bit more and kind of jumped them instead of, like, counter jumped them. So you kind of met in the air, which was a little bit unfortunate. You could have delayed a little bit. It's nice that you're helping with that scout, but you have to, I don't know, it sounds stupid, but you have to kind of hit him. Like, you're going for shots that weren't really always going to hit, so instead of trying to direct him, just make sure you splash. Like, you can almost just click on where he is and you'll always splash him, and you just need that little bit of help to help that scout out. So I think the problem with that mid, for you at least, I don't really know what happened with the rest of the team. I might take a look at that later since you asked about it, but you jumped too early. You had the opportunity to wait and just counter jump them, and then you shot the soldiers in the air, which you obviously missed. You were close to hitting them, but you wasted a lot of rockets on them, and while you were doing that, their soldiers got some damage on your team. And then you focus this guy on the ground and trying to get directs on him. You did do a whole lot of damage there. So your mid was pretty bad. Just target selection, that's important as a soldier. And since you have a shotgun, you might look to shotgun those soldiers that you jump. So if you happen to meet them in the air, you know, you can get some consistent damage out. Obviously it's still more preferable to counter jump them, but yeah, you just want to get damage out and make sure like you're putting up some pressure, especially at the earlier parts of mid. So your team, or you and your medic, should hold up top because you can slow them down a bit. That's fortunate you get this pick here, and right now you need to sack into them. You're not going to be able to hold anything, and if you don't go off of this pick right now, you're pretty much going to... That's a nice shot, but okay, so if you don't go off of this pick, you're just giving them kind of some space, so you end up going off of this pick, but their mech is in a position if he starts backing out now, he can leave without using. And that's a problem, because you're committing your med on this, he's probably going to have to use their mech. He's not going to leave, but he's not going to have to use for a long time. He didn't have to use there at all, actually. He's still full health. So you're kind of fortunate he ended up using. And then that was a really good jump to flank, knowing that someone would be pushing in off of the respawn as like a fight was going on. So that was a really good choice by you. But in general, that push shouldn't have gone well. They shouldn't have even Ubered. It was pretty obvious that you were going to come from there. And then after wasting 3 rockets on the soldier, the demo could have forced you in left and the medic should have already been gone. Don't worry about clearing those, just know that your medic's going to move around him, and obviously move around him yourself. If you weren't low on ammo, I would have suggested going big door, because you could get some damage on spawns. And right now you should, you're ahead of them if you had been building properly, so I probably would have stayed in and used into them. Obviously it didn't turn out that way because you didn't have rockets to build. But you guys should have been on top of that, and yeah, you should have been able to stay in. So right now, since you're staying here, it means that you want to use into them, which isn't the worst idea, but you should actively be spotting where they are. Since you're not, you end up shooting at these scouts that aren't really doing anything. If they're not with a medic, you're not really concerned about them. You can waste 1 rocket on them, but your ultimate goal of this, when you're down numbers, is to buy time for your respawns. So you're looking to exchange with an Uber and get out. If you can get damage on other people, that's great, but really what you're looking to take from this fight is you can have a 4 defense in lobby, because you're never going to defend this point with like 4 people. So you guys are staying in it right now, and it's pretty stupid because if their mech's playing properly, he's not going to get forced. It's just not going to happen. Like, it took 4 seconds for anyone to actually start getting Ubered during the Uber, and then it was just a scout, so the mech can kite him pretty easily. And because you guys stayed in, you used your meds, so probably should have just fucked off and try to defend lobby and slow them down to get spawns up or sack someone into them during lobby phase, because dropping your med here is not good. They're actually, like, you're still fortunate they used. They made 2 mistakes already. They used when they didn't need to, which is a problem. And you should be up here with your demo man, just preventing them from pushing him. In situations where you're pushing the lobby, which is pretty easy to do as long as your scouts are spotting things, when this situation occurs that you can push in, you just want the demo getting tanked and you just preventing people from getting onto him. And you can buy some time, which you really need right now because they have a pretty big advantage. So they're pushing in, double scout, that's really fortunate. You should have spent more time bouncing them around. It's good that you're alive right now, but they kind of double scouted in a way where you could hit them, both of them, with the same rocket and kind of bounce around, so you should look to capitalize on that. So yeah, just take it a little bit wider, I think. You won't get hit by a first stick, and he just happens to be missing them, which is fortunate. Okay, so I think you're not abusing the fact that you have a shotgun. I mean, it's obvious that I'm going to say that, because I'm just all about the shotgun, but like, those rockets were obviously pretty easy, but at the same time, when you're in the air, you can be shotgunning him, you know? Because he should be able to dodge the rockets. Granted, it's going to make his movement a bit more difficult, more constricted, but it's kind of a trade-off. Do you want to do consistent damage, or kind of force him around so your scout can kind of have a better 1v1? And in most cases, I think it's better to have consistent damage, because if that guy happens to go huge regardless of the fact that you're kind of forcing his movement, then you end up there low on rockets, and he can 1v1 you and potentially win, because there's not a lot of damage on him already. So you might want to do like 20 to 30 damage in the air just shotgunning him, and then switch to rockets. And in that case, he might kind of get confused by that too, so. Granted, I don't think your scout should have even been fighting that, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why you're probably going to lose this mid, because there's a lot of separation in your team right now. You're helping this scout, but neither of you really have a buff, and I don't really know where your medic is, or he's right behind you guys. But I think you should, as a soldier, be looking to stack damage on a bunch of people rather than help individual fights on this mid. This mid's really all about just kind of giving up your life, honestly. Doing as much damage to as many people as you can as early as possible to just make it really comfortable for your team. And if your demo man's playing properly at that point, it's really hard to get back into it with a health disadvantage, even if you have a bunch of numbers. So that's probably the best way to play this mid as a soldier. Okay, so there's an actual pause. Let me just fast forward. Hopefully this doesn't fuck your team up. It looks like it was their pause, so you guys are doing a bit better. So what you're looking to do here is, because you were up there when they were capping, you can hold lobby a bit. And the thing about lobby is it's really easy to hold, and it can't really be punished except for moving in lower right and kind of getting behind main and back capping. But as long as your scouts are spotting, that won't happen to you unless you're retarded like my team. But yeah, you just hold up there. You know, demo man stickies the door. You play kind of towards that ammo pack near the upper right now, and just kind of spam anything that comes through the stairs and kind of walks in. And you can force them early, or just put up a lot of pressure and kind of separate the medic from the rest of their team. so that buffs are really poor and a lot more can happen on the flank. So as long as you're actively buffing, the fact that you're slowing down their medic gives opportunities for people up top to kind of fight up top. And in a situation when they end up going up top because you've stickied it really hard, you as a soldier, as a pocket, can feel pretty comfortable as long as your team is calling aggressively from river, that you can jump in to them up top and get a better trade, pretty much. And at that point, someone can sack into them, or hopefully they've used, because a lot of situations the medic's going to be in a position where if you jump off the right wall of the staircase, you can probably force him. And your medic should be far enough away because he's sticking on the demo and just occasionally buffing you, that at last he'll be able to have like a 5-man Uber if they sack in that ends up killing 4 people, and you shouldn't lose anyone but you. But you guys are defending last, which is fine. So you get a pick. At this point, since you have a sniper, I'd be looking to suicide into them. You don't really want to Uber because you're going to have a worse Uber like you are right now. And it's not really going to achieve much because he just dropped a scout and he's going to be able to get back to the fight, and it's going to be totally fine. You know, a respawning scout isn't that much of a disadvantage because by the time the Ubers end, he's respawned really close to them, has crit kills because he doesn't have to self-damage to get closer or to get to his team quicker. So it's almost like a natural timing for a dead scout to come in after the Uber that actually benefits them because he can't make a mistake by being present in a place where he's not supposed to be because he's dead. So you don't want to push off of a scout pick unless you can use the threat of your push to kind of push them out and gain some ground and then suicide into them. But generally off of that, I would have suicided as the pocket and do it quickly, because the reason I suggest you doing it over your roamer or the other scout is because you had a sniper at the time, the scout wasn't buffed, and you had a bigger buff than the roamer because you're the pocket. So it generally falls on you, especially on Gully Wash, where generally teams have this terrible position of having the medic isolated to this one side and only healing the pocket pretty much. It's pretty much going to be on you to sack in if your team gets a pick like that. So that would have been more favorable than kind of going in and have a worse Uber. Especially through main where you can't really... like, it's not very consistent. If they happen to be there, you're going to get shit on. If they're not, you can kind of take the position. But, yeah. You should stay up here, which you do. And it doesn't matter, because you're going to lose. You just lost too many people, which isn't really your... well, it was your team's fault for pushing out, but there was nothing you really could have done about that. So you need to jump right. The problem here is you're jumping for a demo that's not going to get hit, and like the beginning of your mid isn't that great. So I'd probably jump to the boxes, the little kind of tiny boxes stacked upon each other, and just kind of force people away from the demo and keep him out of the fight by keeping everyone else out of the fight. But yeah, since your med died late, you guys aren't going to be able to defend anything, but right now you might be able to get into lobby. With a 5 times, I'd be confident getting into lobby. 6 times, confident in slowing down. You saw that their med's capping right now, you probably can still get there and slow them down a little bit at least. Even without a med, it's not that hard to do, and you can slow them long enough till your med gets there, and then slow them down maybe even more and force them to the door if they're really greedy. So again, this double scout's going on. But you, with your demo there, you guys can comfortably bounce them around. You're not really taking advantage of that. Okay, so for the next couple rounds, I'm going to go over like what your team should be doing. Alright, match is live. Let's see what's going on. So your demo man's going choke. That means the scout needs to go there. If the demo man's going choke, there's always going to have to be a scout there, or the scout that goes up overhang is just going to get screwed. So this is a mistake here, sending both scouts overhang, because if the demo sends his first or second stick there, he's going to hit both of them and your mid's over already. Combined with that, your demo man's just getting to mid, and if a demo man does a double sticky big door rollout, then he's going to trade evenly with him, and the scouts that push up right side with him are going to beat these scouts, because jumping up the side kind of wood platforms and the elbow is a little bit quicker than going up overhang, because overhang you have to kind of travel a little bit like this. So it's a little bit quicker getting there. So in some cases, when they have better spawns, say if they kill themselves or something, which won't happen because no one does that, but if they do happen to have a very fortunate spawn, just by luck, and your scout has a bad spawn, like this guy right here that's coming up, if, for example, he's there, you're only sending one and he happens to be that one, and their scout has a really good spawn, they just kill him. He can't go up here, so his mid's stunted for like 3 seconds or he dies immediately. So in that way, their rollout is just going to counter yours. If you don't send a scout choke, because they're forced to alleviate pressure on the demo, but going on overhang just alone, they're very vulnerable to the enemy demo and the enemy scouts. So right now you need to jump up their side, and you're jumping late, but see, you're going for soldiers. Like, if you're gonna go for soldiers, you have to go for them early. There's not really a whole lot of merit in going for them late when they're already weak, because they're likely not going to do a whole lot. And I think your scouts probably died because they both went overhang, or that little, you know what I'm talking about. And then before, I think this is you getting on the med. If you had done that straight away, or maybe focus a scout, you could have forced yourself into a situation where you had a lot of quick successive kills. But because you were jumping onto someone that is on high ground already, that soldier on the nipple, he can fall down and feel pretty comfortable in wasting a rocket from you, even if he dies, because 2 rockets for a soldier on the ground, which I believe is probably like the guy with 43 health, that is pretty bad. So yeah, this mid's gonna go pretty poor for you guys. Lucky that your demo man gets a nice pipe there, so maybe you can push in off of this. Yeah, your med gets caught in here and you're pretty much fucked. You guys need to decide to push in. Like, if you're caught in here and there's 4 around, the scout just needs to find a site to fight, and the med kind of needs to walk in, body block for the scout if he can, and just make sure the scout has the most comfortable time fighting, because you're going to lose that fight. You're probably going to lose your max, so just make it so the scout kills as many people as possible. And if he plays perfectly, hits all his shots, maybe the med can leave then. So right now your med died late, which is a problem. So you know their med has pretty big advantage, and you should be looking to defend lobby. This demo could have been up top and just spamming them a little bit, just to slow them down, but for the most part it doesn't matter. So you guys really want to defend lobby. You're doing that right now. But like I said, Rigel, you should be at this ammo back a little bit, maybe on this top main platform, and this scout should be watching main, because they could have entered through this lower area right now. I imagine they went up top. The way we deal with this is, let me just get the last, not there. We have a soldier, okay, the roamer plays at the shutter door, he peeks it. I play on top right, and I'm actively peeking that. And then our med's on the right side with a demo and scout, and the demo's actively peeking river, and if he gets a lot of good damage on their combo there, the scout can go in and sack. The demo will lay sticks, so by the time their Uber gets there, he can bounce them away, and then one scout watches main and actively peeks it to kind of figure out where they are. We use this setup when they cap 2, and it takes them a little bit of time, because we usually always hold lobby, and we don't see them trying to push into lobby or push into lower right. We'll kind of shift to this setup because we expect them to be up top, but we don't want to really risk anyone by peeking the door to actually find out. And in this way you can kind of slow them down a lot and force the Uber in a shit situation. So it's pretty fortunate. Oh, they actually ran crits to mid. No, they respawned with crits, right. Because their mid had a little bit of advantage, so I don't know why he respawned with crits. That was pretty stupid. And they send a soldier in at a really poor timing, so you actually probably might defend this. You shouldn't have jumped that soldier up there. You really need to worry about the crits. Also, you could tell from up there that he didn't have a buff, didn't have any overheal particles, so you really didn't need to fuck with him. Would have been a lot better to just screw with the crits. I think you also had a buff too, so you really want to consider how much damage you're going to take in the fights you take. A soldier is stupid. Like, you're going to fight a fucking soldier or a scout close range, and even if you're like a million more health than them, you're still going to take so much damage, because if you win the fight, you're overkilling them, and they don't actually take that damage. And on top of that, you're taking a shit ton of self-damage. And they don't really have to worry about aiming when you're really close to them, so their damage is going to be pretty efficient as a soldier. So if you were going to take a 1v1, I'd try to take one with a scout, but in this situation I think it's more appropriate to really just shit on the crits. And your team generally needed to be a bit more aggressive towards the crits to kind of keep them out. Alright, so your demo's going choke. He's already really slow, and he's not doing the second jump, so I imagine if their demo goes choke, you guys lose. Fortunately, he goes big door. He's the same speed. Your roamer's jumping way too early. And in general, I don't like this scout going up here that early. He needs to wait for this scout to actually get up there before he can feel comfortable about being here, because both scouts could kind of crash in on him if they do it properly, because this guy's going to jump here and this guy's going to about the same time. Yeah, he'll just get kind of pushed off, and then your roamer had to kind of compensate for that. And you never want to jump early if they're kind of mirrored. So if you're going Baydor and they end up their demos choke, that's a situation where you want to jump early, so you don't take a whole lot of damage. You can put out a lot of early pressure so your team can get position. But if they're mirrored, jumping early just allows them to counter jump you. So right off the bat, you guys have worth health, so your scout gets forced off. And the most important thing about this mid, as a scout, is staying up top. You won't ever die if you're on the ground, but you won't be doing a whole lot of damage anyway. Pretty much all of your damage is mitigated by just healing. So, yeah. And then it's all up to the soldiers. Your demo is still on the ground because the mid is pretty much in its infant stage. Your medic gets up. You're kind of fortunate to kill the medic. If he was playing a bit better and their team was playing a bit more conscious, he probably wouldn't die. But it doesn't matter, everyone's so healthy and you guys focus the med so much that they're still going to take mid and probably take 2. You guys should be looking to defend from up top. I don't know where your demo is. He's up top. Your mid should have gone with him. And you guys should be actively defending this. Because at this point, if you plan on Ubering on it, you're not going to get there because you're too late. And 2, it's going to be a shitty Uber because the only people on the cap are like the scouts and the demo. See if that's true. Or just the scouts. And the demo and the med are really far back at choke. So this doesn't mean anything. Even if you stop this doesn't mean anything because now they have Uber advantage. Sure, you've defended this, but you could have done that for free if your med was up top. And they're just going to be able to take it pretty easily. They could even take it right now if someone was being like sneaky and tried to go for a back cap. So you guys are getting mid, and this is actually pretty good. I think that they made the mistake of putting too many people on the cap. So in general, I wouldn't try to do one of those Uber plays, but it worked out for you this time. And now you just have to make sure that you stop them, because they have advantage, and if they kind of kill your medic here, it's pretty much last. So you need to be actively peeking this. You can't be setting up these pussy traps. You can't be, building from really far away. Because right now you're in the middle. You're still in this area where if they come through drop down, because you can't really see them, or if they kind of even push on at all, they can still reach your medic even if he backs out big doors. He's forced to kite kind of this way, just so that his death isn't kind of meaningless and he kind of drags some people underneath where they're kind of useless for a while and their Uber is kind of stunted. Maybe then you can get some good trades and, I don't know, you could probably defend lobby. But the way it is right now, I expect your medic to die to this Uber, and no one's really big door, so I'm assuming they're going big door, and I haven't seen them choke for a while. So, because of that, you're probably going to be able to leave big door with your medic, but if they were going choke, they would kill you. A remedy to that is you actively peek choke. Since you had some number advantage, their scouts were down, you can feel pretty comfortable in damaging choke, just kind of preventing them from Ubering with damage. Because if they Uber and they're really weak, if your mech knows that you're going to be able to force them, then he can react in a way that he won't be able to die to them pretty much. And, obviously as a pocket you could walk into them, force them to stay back and multi a lot, or just body block them with your body. If the situation's not that great, your mech's kind of out of position. But for the most part, if you're doing damage accurately, they won't even go in. Because if they do, they're going to get bounced around a lot because of the incoming damage, and it's just not going to work out that well. Another situation here is you can kind of play the kite game, where your medic plays around here, or even like around here, maybe up here, and as soon as they kind of push in through choke, you kite big door, and at that point, you just need eyes on where their combo is going. If they go back, then you end up going back into mid, and you're just looking to buy time with your Uber. Another kind of way of playing is down here, where you kind of play the same way, but it's not as committed, and you just end up kind of kiting your medic around the point until you get Uber, and moving your players around pretty strategically. So yeah, they called it right now, so they're close, if not there. And yeah, they're going to come big door, and your medic should be able to get out big door. But you can understand how if they came choke, they would just get in, and your medic wouldn't be able to escape, and you'd probably lose other people as well. Especially if they brought scouts. So you get their soldier, and I don't know why you left big door. Now you're just giving the demo man time to stick you off and force you for sure. Probably the best idea here, since you're even, is just sack your pocket in. You should probably just go in there, Rigel, and just kind of shit on them. Hope you can force them. Maybe you get a pick, but you can't let their roamer die for nothing, and right now you guys aren't going to be able to push off of this because they're already here. So you just kind of wasted that advantage you got from your trap. So going in right now is a little too late, because the guy's already up, It's a good force, but, even if they were good, they would have known, they would have had someone watching drop down, you wouldn't have made it there, but it was a good force. But you don't really want to be going in here because... Okay, so... First of all, if you're going to go through choke, and you're not expecting a lot of pressure from their team... So like, even if they got forced and they stayed at choke, and they just got forced at choke, and they just pushed it in a little bit, and then you guys didn't have to Uber and you're pushing through, they'd still do the same thing I was describing earlier about just pressuring you with damage and making you have a bad Uber and kiting it. But because your roamer did a really good job and forced them really far back, they couldn't really hold choke. So there's not a lot of contestation at choke, which means they're probably going to have a player suiciding into you because a lot of them are really weak and already back. They can't really fight you and expect to use their number advantage to force the Uber and kite very well because they've already given up the space to kite and they're not very healthy. So you want to scout lead through choke in that situation when you know they're not close because they can clear out things very well. They can kind of extend and flow back to the medic, just ebb in and out from the medic and just cover everything, find hiding people, and just better at defending against soldiers because they juggle them in the air. So you want to scout lead both scouts through there just to clear everything as quick as possible and take that without Ubering. You're not looking to Uber here because they're already in a position where their medics are probably going to leave. You don't want to Uber unless you can kill their medic pretty much all of the time. So yeah, your medic dies because of that, but even if he used and he didn't drop, it was like crap anyway. Like they can feel comfortable even just giving this up and slow retaking it, but they're actually doing a pretty good job of just out-DMing you guys right now. I think it was a mistake on their part to go that early because you guys still had a little bit of buff. But it doesn't really matter. It's not going that well for you. You're maybe gonna get it. You get a scout. That's good. But I don't think you can do anything with it. And now you're in this position where they're going to be able to kill you because you don't have enough pressure at choke. Like, if you're going to be here, you have to hit them a lot harder. Your demo man has to kind of just shit on them. So another advantage of playing pretty aggressively here is you get to see when they go big door. I guess it was called. Their demo's kind of overextended, so they're gonna have a shitty Uber, but you're just fucked. So the guy at big door that called it probably should have just sacked in to buy time. But in general, like, it's kind of questionable being that close to choke. You could even hold your medic on the point and just kind of arrow the guy at choke. And arrows are really sick for healing, just a little tidbit. But yeah, they do like quick fix uber healing at long range. So you can feel pretty comfortable having the guy at choke just pressure there, see where they're going, and if they come in, just sack into them. And if he gets the force, that's great, and if he doesn't, you know, whatever. You still get out and you slow them down a bit. And you weren't playing for 2 anyway, because you only had 20% when they had 100. At that point, you should be playing for lobby, or even last. But just kind of having arrows like that creates a little bit of space for aggression.
Control point is being captured.
And you can hold more than you can normally would. So you just lose now because you dropped a bunch of people and not much you can do. And yeah, that's game. So, I don't know. General overview, I don't think your mids really made sense. Like, the way you rolled out with your scouts and demo weren't ever in, like, the same vein of thought. Like, they were never really seeking to accomplish the same thing, it seemed. And then as soldiers, you guys kind of jumped at inappropriate times. A little bit too early when they were mirroring you, and a little bit too late when they weren't. That's what I thought. And then you just ignored a lot of the situations for slowing them down in lobby, and that one time I mentioned it too, the very last push. So, I mean, mostly just your mids. You need to kind of plan it out a bit better. If one of you wants to add me, I could explain it a bit better. But just commentating on a demo makes it a little bit hard to explain. And yeah, for the most part, since it was a roll, it was just the mids, and you missed a few opportunities to slow them down, which is probably the best part about Gollywash. There's a lot of situations where you can force them to play slower, so you can get a little bit of uber advantage just by playing really well. So hopefully you guys get that figured out for your next match. Good luck with that.